Okay, greetings, folks. Today we are going to be having a little podcast on how to self-improve a little bit when it comes to your artwork and yourself, and really just building up your confidence and just overall having a great time with yourself and the work that you produce, especially in the times nowadays. So now, we'll get some jazz started, and I'm going to introduce my guest. So, today I am joined by a wonderful friend I've known for roughly coming up 8 years now next month, is Fox.
Hey.
How you doing today, Fox?
No, I'm doing pretty darn good. Can't complain. Sun's out, leaves are blowing.
That's good. So what have you been up to as of late for our viewers to think of?
I'm a freelance illustrator, so I've been working on a lot of fun projects, a lot of not so fun projects. But just
That's good. Yeah, freelance artwork is super fun. I mean, I do that too. That's what I'm categorized as, if you think of it. I need to open up actual pages for people to start commissioning me. I keep forgetting to do that, but I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's a big step on the to-do list.
Yep. One of my biggest things is I really don't want to overprice anything or underprice, because I know how much money people will spend. I really want people to worry about saving their money.
100%.
Yeah, I don't mind getting money. You kind of need it to support yourself and live, but
absolutely.
It's just sometimes I don't know. I don't want to, like. There was one time where somebody commissioned me a while back for a drawing, and it came out to $10, and they're like, "This is way too cheap. Why don't I double it or triple it?" I'm like, "No, dude. I'm telling you, 10. As you saw there, you're willing to spend a lot more than it should be."
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like I wouldn't mind. I mean, eventually we came out to it being 15, but that was more for him really just wanting to show support. But it's like, I don't know. I just feel weird getting other people's money. It's something to I'm trying to get used to, but it's just weird.
Especially when you're starting out.
Oh yeah.
Strange.
And then you get some weird requests. Oh boy, some of the requests I've gotten a few times. Woo. Extra spicy.
Oh goodness.
I'm not talking about you in that regard. No, I'm kidding.
Whoa there, take me out to dinner first.
Nah, you're taking.
So what have you been up to?
I've been doing great. I've really taken some time for self-reflection and just chilling and taking more time for myself, and just some days I've just not done anything and just become an ultimate potato and just taking some time for myself.
You know, that's really important to do, and I feel like a lot of people are pressured into, doing the grind every single day, but you really got to take that time for yourself once in a while.
Indeed. Whew. Wow, it's just, I don't know, it's so surreal. As I've mentioned earlier, folks, I've known Fox here for so long, to the point where now I'm just like, wow, it really set in. Of how long I've known this person. It's quite phenomenal, really. And it just sets into mind where one of the biggest rules I have, and that should be shared for everyone else, is treat others how you want to be treated. And another part is really just being yourself. And it really sets in for how to build relationships, how to interact with people better, especially for those with disabilities like myself. So I probably, if you read already on my page or heard in a video or so, I have high functioning autism, which means I am not as deprived as other people with autism. There's a giant spectrum of it, by the way, people who don't understand that yet. A huge spectrum of different things we can be afflicted by when it comes to it. And there's also other things containing to it alongside Asperger's syndrome and whatnot, ADD, all those combined really together, same with dyslexia. But really, it's important for us to really understand how that stuff works as people in general, not even if you have a disability or not. Really just communicating just helps us understand each other better and really sets into motion on how we can interact as a society.
Walk in someone else's shoes for a second.
Indeed. Also, listeners, sorry if we got a little philosophical there. I'm that kind of person, so you probably know that by now, but yeah. But with that being said, it actually leads us into the topic for today. Thus, that topic will really be about how to build up your self-confidence while also looking at different ways on how to create your artwork in general. Artwork being traditional, digital, creative, hands-on, not hands-on, directive, just art in general, really, crafting, sewing, anything. On really just...
Photography, dancing, music,
yeah.
all of it.
Yeah, all of it, everything. We here want to help you, listeners, on how to build up your confidence and really just feel proud of anything that you create. And also how to take criticism. Not saying that in a bad way, more of how to utilize the criticism you gain in a better way. So starting things off, I'll let Fox take over here and see her thoughts about how to build your self-confidence.
No, I think, of course, as all artists do, I struggle with confidence when it comes to my art, and I'll draw 10 pictures in a day and hate all of them and just pump them up and throw them away. But it gets to a point where you look back during the day and you say, well, at least I drew 10 pictures, or even one, even a line. I think that's really important to count the little successes when you're struggling with that confidence and motivation in yourself. Just getting motivated and just starting. Like, even if you have in your mind that you're not going to like it, of course you're not going to like it in the end, but you just keep doing it and just keep drawing and practicing. Eventually that confidence will grow and be able to look at those images you've done during the day and say, yeah, you know what, I did do that, and that's awesome. And even if you're not happy with the total outcome, at least you did something. That goes with music or, like photography. If you go out and take a couple shots and they're blurry and crap, that's okay. At least you went out there with your camera. At least you picked up that instrument. I think that's just so important, especially for young artists. We've all been there, and it's something you just have to deal with as an artist. It's you putting yourself into your work, and so I'm rambling.
No, you're fine.
Your work.
No, you're fine.
I'm proud of what you're doing.
Yeah, you're fine. This is a podcast. You can talk as how long and how much you want. Sometimes, in other podcasts, it's very apparent we sometimes skip ahead from the topic and talk about something else. It's how we work. But yeah, I agree in that sense. Like, with me, I draw so much that it's gotten to the point where I'm like, what did I do? What was I working on? But even then, like, you're right. Even if you're not as skilled as you think you are, sometimes you're actually way more skilled than you can even think. For the longest time, I always thought that everything I created was crap, or it wasn't going to be good enough. But lately, I just had this huge boost of confidence from others and myself, really just taking the time to finally sit in the fact that sure, I won't be the greatest artist in the world, but I'm going to be good at what I do. And what you do is what makes you. In the term sense of, like, for example, I draw monsters. I'm not going to be like the best crazy freaking professional Magic the Gathering artist known to man, or like, super crazy concept art you've seen like God of War or movie. But
sure.
I damn well will do something really well, and with me taking just a little extra time in my artwork really made it just pop. For example, if you were to go on my Instagram you'd see a drawing of a lady holding a undead Viking's head that I made for Mother's Day, or the Evangelion drawing I did. You see the comparison with all my other work just by lightly shading with a darker color and using black outlines similar to Todd McFarlane, the artist for Spawn, and like Mike Mignola for Hellboy, which are two of my most favorite artists in the world and one who I look up to a lot. Oh, and Frank Frazetta, of course. Like, seeing how they do it and looking back at my work after applying those black outlines really just made it pop. And really, with me saying that, if those of you who are new artists, medium artists, medium as in you know what you're doing, you've dabbled in this for a long time, but you're still not quite sure what you got the foothold, and even those quote-unquote professional artists, looking back at the work you do and then looking at the things that inspire you can really set in motion of how far you've come, especially if you're like me and you save all the work that you've done throughout the years. Like, I still have artwork I've done when I was 7 years old. Like,
absolutely, those are the best ones.
Shoot, I still have this one art piece I did of Deathwing from World of Warcraft I did way back in 2011. And it's the best freaking drawing I've ever done, and I have not been able to redraw that, like, at all. Like, I don't know how. Like, I can't redraw it. And sometimes...
paper.
Yeah. And sometimes that's the best part, when you make something so unique that not even yourself could recreate it. Like, that's when you know you've come as an artist to the point where you make something, and you step away from it, and then you come back and you're baffled at how you even created it. And then you try to remake whatever you did, or perhaps reiterate it, or change it up, and then you realize, well, crap, I can't really do it. That's how you know you've really come far as a creator in general, not just an artist, but as a creator. Especially when it comes to like what you've mentioned before, Fox, of like photography and and just art and music and stuff. When you look back at the work you've created and seeing how far you've come, and how you improved, but also how some of your older work perhaps is a little better than the stuff you're doing now. And
100%.
And it's a good reflection to do.
I think redrawing images is one of my favorite things to do with free time. You know, looking back at something you did when you were, heck, even 10 or 12 or what have you, and then redrawing it and just seeing how much you've truly improved.
Yeah, yep.
We're stuck with ourselves all the time, so that slow progression you don't notice, but other people around you will. And I feel like doing that is a good measurement of how far you've come.
Yeah, it's really surreal in that statement. It's just it's weird because you never really think about it until you start viewing the stuff you do. It's crazy.
100%.
How much of an impact you can have on yourself by looking at your own stuff and how you interact and create things. I know I said that earlier, but you know, I'm really trying to set in the fact that the biggest thing you can have with improvement is self-reflection and just taking a day off from everything and just sitting down and leaving to your own thoughts. I know this entirely doesn't work with everyone, but even if you just do it for a little bit, it really does improve. And also just taking a deep breath and getting some good sleep helps too.
Oh yeah, when you can.
Sometimes us creators can get so swamped in work or overdo stuff to the point where we're really drained out that maybe taking a really long nap is a good idea.
Burnout is no joke.
Burnout is a listeners, you're about to hear a curse word, so hide your baby ears, you're about to hear something crazy. Art block and stress from overworking yourself is a real pain in the ass.
Oh my gosh, cover your mouth.
Alright. Oh mate, this fucking crazy man used a bunch of curse words. How dare he?
Oh
I say! But no, seriously though, if burnout is a bitch of a thing to deal with.
Absolutely.
you see this constantly with creators that you listeners follow, like all the people that you follow throughout your media and whatnot, or even me, but I doubt you follow me. No, I'm kidding. But really, it sets in on how draining it could really be, and it's not just for creating, but really anything in general. If you do something for a very long time, you're gonna be tired and done with it.
Absolutely. But just like weight training and track practice and sports, those are your muscles getting built and getting stronger. So burnout can be a very good thing, and it can cause some really good reflection too.
Just like, yeah, just like with the body, you gotta make yourself strong. Y'all like when I go into the mic? It's great. Okay.
It's kind of burning my ears. Hopefully, my ears are fine.
Try to have some fun here.
Another note for those young artists out there, or hobbyists, or people just getting started. One of the things that and I'm sure you've struggled with, so is looking at other people's artwork and getting discouraged. Like, that will never be my art, or never be good. But the truth is that you will one day if you just keep going at it.
Oh yeah, that was.
You just gotta keep practicing.
Yeah, that was something I struggled with a lot when I was growing up. Now I'm, as I said earlier, by reviewing my own work and just changing up a thing or two, and then looking at those who inspire me. Now I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm great. I'm doing great right now. I'm where I'm at. I'm doing good. But like when I was little, especially in middle school, I got bullied a lot in middle school. I know everyone always talks about they get bullied in middle school, but really that's the point where everyone gets so screwed over by anyone due to the fact that your hormones are out of balance. You're learning about yourself and the interactions you have really with other people's culture and yourself, and how those coincide with one another. But really that can be a giant confidence breaker, and will probably affect you in the long run when you grow older, which is exactly what I went through, and how I just came to the recent like discovery of, what am I doing? Why am I acting like an idiot? I'm great. I'm doing fine. I don't know why I always deprive myself, and really it's something hard to deal with, and I still deal with it, but really just building up your confidence again, just improve yourself as a person and make you feel better, especially with all the crap that not only myself but others, especially you listeners, have probably gone through, and even my guest here, she probably went through some stuff. I don't know.
Oh sure.
I'm not going in your personal life.
Everybody does. It's a weird time in life, middle school. Like, straight up, if you're going through middle school right now, anybody that's listening, like, just keep going through it. You'll get through it, I promise. After high school, things get better.
Oh yeah. In high school, that's when things start getting a little better, but still a little freaky. In the both sense of, you know what I'm talking about, and crazy situations you gotta deal with.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's...
Just remember to focus up and keep on keeping on.
Keep on trucking. As a small blue fish, voiced by Ellen DeGeneres, keep on swimming. Oh god.
Copyright claims now.
I don't care. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm doing this for fun.
That's true.
It's called demonetization.
On that same note of not letting amazing artists get you discouraged, don't get discouraged by them, but be inspired by them. Think of that as your goal of where to be, rather than a goal that's impossible to reach. That's so important. After one of my instructors told me that, it changed my life, honestly, because you get sucked in, with, I know it's been trending right now, 2020, of people having a perfect life on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, like,
y'all motherfucker. Oh, whoop. Y'all know you do not.
Just know that everybody wants to post their best selves, and you can too. You know, nobody's life is perfect. Like, everybody has shit they're trying to deal with and go through.
Oh yeah.
I know I'm just starting to sound really cheesy and corny. Just, we're all human. Everything's fine.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Sure, everyone always says we're human and things will get better, but really, it is. Like, we're all human. We all have different interactions and emotions and things we're dealing with, and we're social animals, really. Yeah, I said
Yeah.
animals. Mm-hmm. We're
Cliches
classified
are
as
there
animals.
for a reason. There's a reason why they're cliches, because everybody says them and because some of them are actually true.
Yeah, they're true. Like, everything we're saying here, it's true. You can take it with a grain of salt, or you can take it to heart. Really,
Yeah.
it's just understanding how things work and how to use yourself in those situations and how to reflect, really. God, there's so much things I've gone into. Sure, I might have get screwed over here and there. I may have not looked at something right, especially with what I have. I cannot understand anything half as good as everyone else does, but even then, it's like just really building up that sort of self-confidence and understanding of stuff. It can really improve yourself as a person and how to interact and think differently. Like, there was the longest time where I had no clue on how to talk to people, like how to actually talk. Like, I mean, Fox here knows the first time they knew me back in this little program with a zoo and aquarium. We're interning slash summer internship at volunteer. I mean, I was interning later, but that didn't go anywhere, obviously. Really, when she met me, I was like, I think that was the time where I was just figuring out how to not stutter and be shy of people. And yeah, I don't know how much I changed, but I think I did good.
Oh yeah, getting better every day.
Yeah, that's good.
100%, and that's another good points. So, getting kind of forcing yourself out of your comfort zone. I know it's scary, and I know it's sometimes just horrible in the bane of your existence, but it's one of the most important things that you can do for yourself. Like, pushing that envelope a little bit. Like, if you get anxiety around lots of people, join a club at school, or, you know, if you're in a college, like, get a friend group, go to a chess club, or you know, like, what are those called, like a lecture study group.
Yeah, those group bonding activity things.
Yeah, force yourself as hard as it can be. Force yourself into those situations, and you will grow as a human being. Because just like you saw, like, I was not good with people at all, but after doing the volunteer program with about maybe 80 other strangers that were around my age, I was really forced out of that comfort zone.
Oh yeah.
And I think it definitely helped me out in the long run. I made a lot of good friends. You know, I'm sure you did too.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
And it was something that we all had in common, was like that passion for animals. So even if you're joining like a lecture group, if you really love math or music or books, you know, like, join those groups, get out there and try to make some friends, and people will invite you in if you're nice enough.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, shoot. Not only did I have slight problems with interacting with people and just understanding how it works when I was younger, but even Fox here, when I met them, when I started understanding how people work, she was I think her and I were the only people who really talked to each other on a more personal note. But then when we saw other people, yeah, of course we talked to them, but I don't know why. For me, it always felt like it was her and like these two other people I talked to a lot, and those were the only ones I really spoke with and felt more confident and at ease. That's another thing too. There's you can feel as confident as you want, but if you feel comfortable with the person, that really makes the difference.
100%.
Being comfortable and at ease with somebody is when you really know that's a person you can trust and talk to, and also ask for help. That's also another thing I struggle with. I suck when it comes to asking for help, but There's been a few times when I actually asked Fox here for some help, and they help me out. I've gotten better.
Well, I think that's important too. Like, hide your pride and ask for that hand up. You know, not really for asking for a handout, but a hand up.
Yeah. What you're saying is asking. A lot of us in general nowadays struggle with the fact that we don't know everything. We really don't. And when it comes to asking for help, we're kind of stubborn and a little self-absorbed when it comes to that. I, for one, have gotten really good at it, but whoa, not that. I've gotten better at not being self-absorbed. Well, actually, no, that's not the right word. Being shy and stubborn is what I dealt with a lot, and as of late, I've now starting to realize the importance of it and just getting better at the fact of, I don't know everything. I really don't. I'm an idiot in a lot of shit. But
nobody does. There's always going to
yeah.
be somebody out there that knows more than you, so.
Which also
that's
ties...
how it is.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Which also ties in with creating stuff in general when it comes to your artwork, music, photography, editing, whatnot. You can be really good, but sometimes it takes a good old wallop to the face to realize maybe you're not as great as you thought. Not saying that's a bad thing. There's always improvement. And that also goes for people who are in the professional state or really good at what they do. Sometimes you can even see their mistakes, and then that really makes you feel better too. Like, there's been a few times where I've seen some of the people's artwork I follow, for like Magic the Gathering, for instance. There's so many artists. I am actually thinking of wanting to be part of that group, especially with the new Ikoria set where they had all that comic art in their stuff. That really made me feel better because a lot of the stuff looked like the things I was drawing already. So that made me feel great. And which also ties into confidence building and inspiration. You see something that you've done recently, and then you see another person do it. That really makes you feel better about yourself in a way of where it just makes you like, wow, I've actually gotten better. That looks really good, and look at my work. It's like that. Look at that. Hey, I'm doing great. That also tied in with a recent realization I had. But there's been a few times where I've seen some of the Magic the Gathering artwork. I'm like, dude, that looks really cool. But why is that hand so small? That doesn't make sense. And that's not a perspective thing. That hand looks kind of off. or sometimes the backgrounds of the art, you're like, man, there's this cool thing, but one of the people in the background look a little fuzzy. And not because they're far away to see. That's natural. There's a whole perspective thing that where the farther something is, the less detail there is. But when it looks fuzzy and not like it's losing detail, there's something up. But really, I mean, that kind of constructive criticism, which leads into the second part, is what we gotta understand. There is a difference between these three criticisms. The third one I actually made up because it's hard for me to understand stuff, and this makes it understand easier. I don't know why. But there's criticism, constructive criticism, and then the third one that I've actually created to start using and possibly coining as a term, I don't know, is supportive criticism. Although that might be a thing, I don't know. I only know criticism and regular constructive criticism, but there is a big difference. So criticism is just criticizing something purely based on your judgment and not really taking into the other person's ideals and thoughts. So it's like, wow, for instance, whenever you see a video or artwork you don't like, you're instantly like, wow, that sucks. I don't like that. Meh. Screw that nonsense. What is this, boobs on boobs? An armor plate that form around boobs? What does that make sense? It's dumb. I actually do that a lot. A lot of time when I see female armor, I'm like, does that really need to have the boobs defined? You can just give it the Samus Aran treatment for Metroid and just make it a rectangular, regular armor chestplate. but
really throwing yourself under a bus over here.
But exactly, that's what I wanted to show. See, that's regular criticism. That's just something you really don't agree with and you want to show as to why it's probably not great. And you're like, meh. But with me saying that, Now we're going into constructive criticism, where you're like, it's in a way to where you're adding yourself criticism, but you're basing it on how to influence the person on how to make their stuff better, or show them something that they probably didn't even know. Like, back to that whole example of the breastplate situation that I have a huge if on. Let's say there's an artist who loves drawing non-accurate chestplate armor for female characters, or anything really. I would be doing them a disservice and making them feel really bad about themselves, about the fact that I'm like, this sucks, meh. A better way to do it is, for example, it's like, maybe it's a little too, like the chest plate, if you really wanted to go around the breast, maybe it's a little too flashy. Perhaps if you made it more rounded and coming up to the shoulder where it would connect, then that would add a little more emphasis on their overall buff, masculine femininity. I made up a whole thing there. But see, that's the difference between regular criticism and constructive. That there was me giving an example of why maybe it didn't look so great, but not harshly criticizing the work. And then perhaps saying it in a better and nicer tone. Tone is a huge part, people, on how to expand your knowledge and ideas. Tone is a huge thing. As you saw there, like, my example of me being like, angry nerd about breastplate armor. How I sounded angry and almost going at the person's work, thus feeling like they were being attacked by me. My tone was different in the sense of I was showing aggressive nature. Now, when it came to the constructive criticism, I had a lighter tone. I spoke in a more meaningful sense, taking into consideration of the other person's likes. Kind of like how I'm talking to you now. It's the speech and tone on how you use to interact with people, and that's what a lot of people nowadays kind of struggle with, in my opinion. What do you think on that?
You know, for young artists out there, like, straight up constructive criticism is really good. If you ever go to a college, like an art class, you know, they'll have like the critique session, and you know, that's, as hard as the criticism might be, like, if it's constructive, like, take it in. If it's not constructive, like, take it with a grain of salt. Somebody just tells you, hey, that looks like shit, like, that's not constructive. It's just,
that's just personal opinion.
Exactly. But if somebody says, hey, you know, that eye's looking a little saggy on the left, or oh, the hair kind of comes up in an interesting way, I don't know if gravity would really do that.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those might hurt, you know, like, reflective on your personal style. Oh, well, I draw hands this way. You know, instead of taking it as a personal attack, think about it. You know, say, okay, well, if this person thought my hands looked weird, maybe I should go back and practice my hands. You know, don't take it super negatively, because in the grand scheme of things, a lot of people just, but if somebody questions you about something, like, go ahead and do some practice. Take it as like a motivation to, okay, well, I'm gonna get really good at hands, so nobody else can ever say this to me again.
Yeah, or
kind of thing.
Or if they do, now you know why, and then you can expand on that and take it with positivity instead of negativity. Which now
100%.
leads into the third one that I have created. I don't know if it already exists, but this is a weird, how can I say this without making it sound weird? It's not babying, but it's more helping the person feel better about their work. This is called supportive criticism. This is what I do when it comes to criticizing other people's work. I either do this or constructive. Supporting in this term is more of helping the person understand what they did good. Like that. Like criticizing how well they did, and then the thing that made it all come apart, but not in a bad way. Like, let's say, I love dragons, right? I love dragons. Let's say somebody drew a demonic black dragon with obsidian scales and spikes all over the body. Totally not talking about me making this, cough cough. But, like, I look at it and I'm like, holy crap, this looks fantastic. I don't even know if I could do this. And then you're like, wow, look at the claws and how rigid they are. Look at the scales and how well you blended everything together. Like that's a supporting it. But then when it comes to criticizing it, you're like, everything looks really good, but the claws, as rigid as they are, you seem to be there's something missing. And you can be like, so, what do you want to emphasize with the claws and the movement of it? And the person will probably say, I want it to look like it's striking somebody, or its hand is reaching out, about to grab them and choke them out. It's like, okay, alright. Or it's like, I want to show how old this creature is and how much it went through, but I don't think I can do it very well. Or I did, but I don't know how well. And it's like, okay. And then, with my supportive criticism, like, alright, so with this here, you have the claws in the right direction to where it looks like it's about to choke a guy out and then tear out their whole spine in one go, but the effect to really emphasize that is adding in streak lines, like showing movement or a little bit of blur. Not heavy blur like a lot of people do. Sometimes you guys use way too much blur and it doesn't make sense. Unless if it's something really, really fast, then go ahead. Like Sonic, cough, cough. But back to that whole...
Fast.
Yeah, we gotta go fast. I'm Sonic. But back to that whole claw example, like, after I gave that supportive criticism, once the person just added that very small detail, all of a sudden the whole piece just became like a masterpiece. And I'm talking about myself. I don't know if the person will think of it that way. They're probably like, okay, cool, I mean, that looks nice. But really just adding that soft but helpful criticism. Sometimes constructive criticism could still be a little bleh or too heavy on the criticism. This way, when you I'm probably confusing you guys. I'm not great at explanations, first of all. But by doing so with that supportive portion of it, instead of overall pointing out the negatives in somebody's work, you can point out the positives and then lead into what holds it together and what doesn't fit. And that's what I think is another good way to go by criticizing people's stuff.
You know, so I think that's it's honestly part of constructive criticism. It even goes into like management. You tell somebody what they're doing right before you tell them what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the harsher way of saying it.
It's like the whole good cop, bad cop kind of thing. Or like, you want to hear the good news or the bad news?
Exactly, but it has to do with psychology. Just hearing something, okay, I did this right, and then that will bring in motivation to do the other thing right as well, rather than just saying, you know, if somebody was sweeping a floor, it's like, you missed all of this area.
Oh god, I hate hearing that. I hate hearing that in my job. And most of the time, it's not even my fault. Freaking coworkers don't know how to clean. Y'all youngins don't know how to clean up.
Maybe you need to give them some supportive criticism.
No, I need to give them straight up No, I'm kidding. I need to give them constructive criticism. I'm not gonna baby them with that. We do it with kids, man. But yeah, no, you're right. It's, yeah. Really in a sense of all this in the podcast in general is really... Fox's and I's goal is to help you listeners feel a little better about your work, yourself, maybe improve on the two, and really just take a step back and reflect. And now that we've done with the reflections of criticism and ideals and influencing yourself from others and building up your confidence, this part that we are going to be talking about is a little more personal for all of us. It's how to apply yourself to your work. Would you like to take that away, Fox?
How to apply yourself to your you know, throughout college, a lot of times there would be... Sorry, let me restart. In college, there'd be projects where I would be working on them hours and hours and hours, and at the end of it, I realized I was making it rather to appease a certain instructor, like want to go for a certain style, because I knew that instructor would be happy. but in the end, it wouldn't turn out very good. It would be, it wouldn't be me.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes our instructors would say, like, don't make stuff for us, make it for yourself. If you put you and your own style and your own feeling and your own decisions into your piece, that will show and that will speak to your audience. So, and I know it's a kind of a hard concept to grasp, but if you really put yourself into your pieces, it will show. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And also, if you're thinking about going to an art college and you just have that one instructor that likes a certain style, like, straight up, feel free to do it.
Oh yeah, I had this one teacher who was like, I don't want to see any anime. And I'm like, well, good luck with that. Because you're about to get a lot of that from other people. Especially when it comes to art styles, because anime and cartoon styles is like the most heavy influential parts to people's work. Like with mine,
it's really, really good.
A good example is my art style. For those listeners and friends and Fox here, if you've seen my artwork, it's like a weird blend of, I call it the East meets West art style, where it is a combination of like Eastern, like mythology art and stuff, alongside with anime and Western art styles, especially those from the things that influenced me a lot growing up was Samurai Jack, Berserk, Evangelion, Cowboy Bebop, Dexter's Laboratory, like, and God, just growing up reading all the Transformer stuff, like Transformers in general, a lot of it has a kick-ass art style, but all those combined together has influenced me in a way to where I love detail in my artwork, but I hate color, which is why I just, like, well, I like using color, but I hate shading color. It is a pain. Unless if it comes to miniature painting, funny enough. I don't know how that works. Probably because I did sculpting and painting when I was 9 for clay and stuff, so maybe that explains it. Because that stuff is fun and very soothing. But anyway, back to the main part of what I'm saying is all that combined together in a way where I developed my own style, and thus with my work I've put myself into it. I'm trying to remember, there's this saying I heard a way back. I don't know who it was from. It was from somebody I was listening to, but what they pretty much said was, everything you create, a little bit of yourself goes into that.
Yeah, heard that one too.
Yeah, I can't remember where I heard that from, but what that means is, let's say, for example, I draw characters a lot. I make a lot of characters. I have a comic I'm working on. You probably saw one of my guys called Azazel, the Harbinger of Corruption. Wait, Harbinger of the God of Corruption. Whew, that's a long title. Sounds like a Dark Souls name, right? That's from my upcoming comic I have coming up soon. That's on my Instagram. Cough, cough, self-insert. Cough, cough. But that there, I threw myself a little bit into that. Like, I love characters who have a lot of philosophical thought when it comes to villains, but also just these really big, imposing, threatening-looking guys, and I have a thing for multiple eyeballs and pointed chins and very spiky, curved-looking characters. Which ties into my art influences, like Samurai Jack has a lot of those, like, just the art style of that stuff in general has a lot of the pointy, curvy, edge, like a lot of triangles and rectangles in their designs, if you will. I'll probably do a video on that aspect later, I don't know. But really, it's like, with this whole inserting yourself into your, well, not necessarily inserting, but adding your own personality into your work can really show who you are as a creator, which goes into, like, art styles and stuff. Like, everyone has different art styles, even for those who look very similar. A lot of comic artists and Magic the Gathering artists kind of have similar styles, if you've really paid attention to their work, but each one has something unique to that person. For example, there's this artist who I follow for Magic the Gathering. It is fantastic with the work they do, and it just separates itself from everything else. This guy is called Velinov. Velinov. I think that is the name. Let me double check that.
You could put a link in the description.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, I'll do that too. Yeah, it's Svetlin Velinov. Velinov is his last name and he uses it a lot for his work, but his art style is so dynamic and super detailed. It's like the stuff I'm trying to do, minus the black highlights, what I do, he does it. But looking at that work compared to everyone else's, it instantly pops out, and once I see that art in any cards or teaser, I know that's him. That's what leads me into saying this whole adding yourself into your work and adding your own personal touch. Like, no matter if your artwork can sometimes blend in with other people's work, like, a good example a lot of shows have difficulty of nowadays is looking the same. I'm talking about you, Disney and Nick and whatnot, with your Gravity Falls and other shows that look like that, and whatever that one with the kid brother and all of his sisters. I forget what that's called, but those have very similar styles, but they're done by different people. And even with them looking very similar, there's something different. Gravity Falls doesn't have a lot of the noodly arm looks, even though both of them look very similar. Their eyes aren't as wide. Their characters are more fleshed out compared to the other one I mentioned. I forget the name. Little brother and all of his sisters, whatever. It kind of looks like the School of Rock, if you guys remember that. Y'all remember the little show School of Rock?
Mm.
You know, like
I don't remember that one.
with you probably watched it in school where it had the song done by this little piece of paper guy called the Bill of Rights. It was a little guy called Mr. Bill.
Oh, School of Rock. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm Mr. Bill. I'm
Yeah,
just a Bill. But with me saying that, you see what I mean, listeners, if you look it up. Like, that art style compared to what we see from, like, whatever that show's name is and Gravity Falls, they all have that sort of kind of simplistic, cartoony look with semi-noodly arms and well-formed outfits and, like, kind of the, like, simplistic big eyes. Or another really good example, because all these were done by the same artist in a way, is like Dexter's Laboratory, Powerpuff Girls, Samurai Jack. All those have the very same art style, but each one has a different look, even though they all look similar. Like Samurai Jack, it's more like there's more edges, so you can show action better, and the characters have a more defined and unique look. And Powerpuff Girls, it's a very cute themed show where everyone has a little more rounded look to them, even though it's the same art style. And then we go into Dexter's Laboratory, where it's kind of a blend of the two, to emphasize how crazy the show can get, with this kid scientist who's a total nut job with a funny accent, and I love the show so much. But really, with me giving those examples, it shows how you can add yourself into your work and show different designs very subtly compared to everyone else. I know I kind of went all over the place, but that just shows how much of an influence you can have and also show different details in your work. Now, what are your thoughts on that, Fox?
I think it's really cool that have similar styles but speak to different audience. So, for anybody out there who's feeling, a little insignificant about your art style, well, I want to draw a dragon on a book, but so many people have already done that, but it hasn't been done by you, so you should feel free to do your own thing. So if you do want to draw a quote-unquote cliche, do it.
Well, I don't think it's...
you haven't done it.
Sorry, I don't think it's necessarily a cliche in that sense. I mean, it could be, given the terminology used, but perhaps a similar concept.
Well, yeah, exactly. I guess when I was in art school, that was a pretty common trend of I want to do a dragon for this piece. Oh, but there's already been so many dragons drawn. Well, you haven't drawn a dragon yet. But you haven't drawn a dragon like this yet. Making it your own is what I'm saying. Sorry.
Yeah. You know, I understand that. Like, that was something I actually struggled with a lot in high school, where I wanted to draw these cool pieces, but so many other artists, even those I followed, have done something already like that. And it's kind of a weird, a confidence debooster in a way, where you're like, well, crap, someone else does it, then I'd feel like I'm a copycat. And then people might see me as a copycat. First of all, no. Secondly, if people think you are a copycat, they can screw off. Like, seriously. They can screw off. Though, when people think of you like that, that's just, it shows their insecurities, or they're just really harping on the fact that you probably don't have your own securities, and you've shown your insecurities. It's something I dealt with a lot, especially like a couple of years ago too. Still am. I mean, that's with us artists in general. I feel like all of us artists in some way are judgmental than others. I'm not really judgmental about anything, as I've mentioned before, but there are a few things to the point where maybe I do criticize, hence why I gave my example of my frustration with breastplate armor and the way it looks. That's why I gave that example, because that was me realizing how much I judge that certain thing, and to the point where it negatively reflects me as a person. Like, I don't mind those details at all, but when it comes to like, I don't mind that look at all, but for me, like, it doesn't make any combative sense, and it kind of deprives the person a little bit. But see, that's me putting my own self on someone's work. I didn't do that. I didn't create it, and I'm overjudging. I should back off from that just a little bit. But yeah. So it's just really, it's, as you've said earlier, Fox. It's like, it's already been done, but it hasn't been done by you.
Exactly. And on that note of copycat, I want to put out a word of warning. There is such thing as stealing other people's work. If you see a character design that somebody else did, please steal that design and call it your own. Just
I've seen that.
For it.
I've seen that. Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. Fan art is totally fine. Like, people love that. If you draw their character and send it to them, please don't ever steal people's work. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very sad thing.
That's a good segue.
People get attacked.
That's a good segue. Like, see, when I was growing up, I actually, so this isn't going to go into inspiration from other people's work, but not copying how it looks. Like, there's a difference from using the pose and then making it your own, compared to using the pose and then just drawing the same thing, but different details. I see this a lot with other people's, like, work, where, like, the one that we all joke about is, like, the people drawing the same Sonic, but, like, giving them different hairs and stuff. You know what I'm talking about, Fox?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, look, here's my edgelord guy, even though it's shadow, but he's red instead of black with black outlines. Not attacking you, new artists or people starting out, by the way. I'm just giving an example.
It's totally fine to draw other people's work for practice.
Yeah, there's just the difference of. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Just don't steal it for your own. Don't say this is mine completely. Like,
yeah, see, this is
great tip. Just post that artist's work right next to yours.
Yeah.
Even better, ask them permission to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, that's a good example. Like, when I was growing up, I loved so many other people's work, and it inspired me a lot. But when I was looking at all of my old work from when I was, like, in middle school and, like, starting high school, I noticed some of them look a little too similar. And I wasn't doing that intentionally, but that's how sometimes you can unintentionally do something to the point where it becomes intentional, and then you don't even notice it until later. Like, there was this one character way back where I liked from Mega Man ZX called Prometheus. He was super cool, and then I developed this own character in middle school called Prometheus. Not the same character, different thing. Everyone uses the name Prometheus for something, but my design was a more red, super fleshed out, almost like knight armor look of the character, except with the weird giant pointy stuff on the side and the top of the head, and it was just a skull helmet. But looking back into the drawing, the character was pretty simple and super similar. The only thing I did was make him red and just make it more knight-like in armor. But, see? Sometimes, in that example there, and what has Fox mentioned earlier, sometimes, unintentionally, you may copy the work. And it's good to point that out and then realize that you're doing that and then stop. Not saying stop drawing, but stop overusing your reference. And when it comes to referencing material and art references, the best references you can use is not only the work people do in a sense of you study them. There's a difference. There's studying and referencing. Referencing is using the material you have before and then implying certain looks and ideals from those and then combining it together and making your own. Now, studying is very different, and this is what I strongly advise everyone to do, because this is what I do, and it's improved me as an artist. Study those you follow and the things they do very well with. Like with me, I see Todd McFarlane's and Frank Frazetta's work, and I study them. With that in a case of, I look at how well they do their musculature, how they make the character imposing, the pose they use, and how much detail they add to emphasize how bulky they are, or how much anger they have in a character, or a good example is faces. Artists, faces and eyes, and just the pose of whatever you're doing really shows how much emotion that person has. It doesn't have to be super detailed, but as long as the face, eyes, and posture is what you want to emphasize, you're doing a good job.
100%. And I think on that same note, they're really thing if your art to be absolute color. Study life. Like, go into the bathroom, take selfies in there of different poses you want to draw.
Now, don't post them on Instagram.
Yeah, don't post them on Instagram unless they're really good. But
y'all know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Take pictures of your hand, draw over them times. Like, learn those lines, learn how the body works. Like, study in real life as well as your favorite illustrators or people. Because that's how people are going to read the feeling of images, base it in reality. It's things that they can relate to. The way a hand sits relaxed versus tensed up. Like, yeah. There's a amazing website out there if anybody likes doing life drawing. Quickposes.com.
Did you say quickposes.com?
Quickposes.com, yeah. It's absolutely amazing. Go through, they have a bunch of just random stock images of people doing different postures and poses. You can have them nude, you can have the costumes.
Hey,
drawing from nude life.
Real quick, listeners, if you are under the age of 18, do not, and I repeat, do not look at any revealing art or poses, even if it's from someone cool. Like, a good example, I grew up...
Give them an example.
Well, here, this is a good example. I grew up looking at H.R. Geiger's work, because I love aliens, like xenomorphs and stuff, and I love his work. It's really cool, kind of creepy, but a lot of the work I couldn't really see because there were exposure of nipples and other body parts that were fused up with metallic pieces and metals and whatnot. It was a good representation of the person's work. It's just, it's that whole age dynamic of, I'm not saying some of you guys are childish in nature or understanding things, but there's really a psychological development that is needed when it comes to age and understanding, which is why I really didn't see the whole of H.R. Geiger's work besides the aliens and the crazy monsters that he's made until I was like 18, 20. Then I had the mental capacity to actually understand as to why this was a little weird for me to look at when I was at a young age or without parental guidance and understanding. Sorry for that segue. But it's very important for younger artists especially to understand that. Like, don't be looking up all this stuff. You know what I'm talking about. Don't be looking up. Just be careful. Even if you're looking at a cool artist, I'll actually just say this right now. I've done pinups. Sometimes pinups are like a a very unique pose to where the person, let's say the person's in a summer wear for like going to the beach, like the old 1950s pinup stuff, like that kind of thing. I love doing that kind of work because it's not too flashy, but it's not too overwhelming, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like that. Like, I had to wait until I was older to be able to start doing that, because there was a certain view I needed to understand better, and also the confidence and respect I had for it. I respect that kind of stuff a lot. I don't judge people who do NSFW work at all. I actually think it's good. You do what you love to draw. I'm not that particular person, which is why I said I only do like some pinups here and there, but I'm really about all the cool, badass looking monster designs that look like they're about to kill somebody. That's my forte. But that also goes into actually expanding your work too. Now that I think about it. There's so much to
explore. Yeah.
There's so much to talk about with art. I feel like we kind of cover like a whole spectrum here instead of just confidence building. But then again, all this goes into confidence. But then again, all this goes into confidence, really. As I mentioned earlier, I was actually really shy about seeing anything of, like, exposed nature, if you will. I mean, yeah, I've seen animals. It's animals. But when it comes to people, it's like, oh, whoa, buddy.
I think there's a difference between, you know, whether you're drawing, like, for life. I don't know if any of you out there have done, like, life drawing.
Yeah, life study drawings.
Yeah, you go into a room and then there's
I've
somebody naked there. And
I've done that once. It was really, really awkward.
It's really, really fun because usually the people who are posing are always laughing. It's a great time. If you guys ever get the chance, please do it. It's really exploratory.
I was cracking up, and the person who's posing was cracking up. I kept asking them, "Hey, is this all right?" And they're like, "Yes, it's fine." It's like, "Are you sure?" And they're like, "It's fine." And it's like, "Are you really sure?" It's like, "It's this guy. Yes, it's fine." I'm like, "Okay."
They get paid for it. They don't mind.
I know. I'm one of those guys who, it's like, when anything comes to that matter, it's probably why I never got a girlfriend. I'm like, "Are you sure?" And they're like, "Yes." "Are you sure?" "Yeah." "Are you sure?" "Dude, shut up." "Okay." Oh, yeah. But no, you're right. It's like, you know, I always tell people, look at animals if you want to learn how to draw monsters. You want a good way to learn how to draw monsters is looking at human anatomy, especially musculature and skeletal system. That's the most important part to know of any drawing, is how muscles, skin, and skeleton interact with one another. And then apply that with animal anatomy. Like, a good example was me drawing dragons. I have to look at 5 different things before I begin. Sometimes I even have to look at more things. Like, let's say I want to draw a wyvern. A wyvern is a 2-winged dragon with 1 pair of legs and a tail and the head, of course. That would be weird if it didn't have a head.
Headless dragon.
Behold, the Dolomangar, or Draugr of Dragons, the Headless Horseman.
I want all of you out there right now, fucking post your headless dragons in the comments right now.
Yes, if anyone is listening to this, feel free to hit me up at my Instagram link in the section below, and just link me to your headless dragons. We're gonna make this a trending meme. Let's do it.
Yes, headless dragons.
Yeah, let's do it. But yeah, no, it's funny in that sense. Like, it's so stupid. Now I can't stop thinking of a headless dragon, like, with little top hat on, but there's like no head and it's holding a cane. Like, sup? Hey, if you got any dragons with top hats on, feel free to link me that too.
I'd like to see some of those.
I like gentleman stuff. It's funny. Like, one of my favorite things is when people give cute animals and stuff, like top hats, a monocle, and a little cane. It's like the most adorable little funny thing ever.
That's pretty cute.
Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, look at that little pit bull with a little top hat and monocle. Look at that little guy.
Sorry, a segue. You were talking about wyverns?
No, this works out great.
Okay.
As I said, we're talking about everything, and this is what happens when a podcast is really good, when the people start just talking about random crap and they're happy about it. Yeah.
All the listeners are like,
What's happening? I thought I was listening on how to build my self-confidence and wavering. Well, what happened there? But yeah, no, it's with the whole wavering example. It's like not only do I have to look at anatomy of a lizard, but I have to look at anatomy of a wolf, because a lot of Western dragons and in the Eastern Hemisphere too, especially in England and Welsh mythology and Norse a little bit, a lot of them use mammal facial features to really show the definition of what the creature is, especially in mythology. A lot of animals are kind of melded together. Like, good example, chimeras are like snakes, sometimes dragons, goats, lion, like all that put together. Then you got hydras, which are like snakes and lizards and some other mammal thrown in there.
Exactly. I know it's a common myth that I don't know why some artists don't like this idea, but if you want to be professional, get really good at art, use reference. It is not a sin. It is highly.
I know. I don't know.
Use all the references. You don't know what a jug of milk looks like until you pull out that jug of milk from either your fridge or you look online to Google some jug of milk. Like,
yeah, like there's
the most important thing in all of it.
Yeah, and that.
How did those professionals get so good? They used their references.
That ties in with this whole thing. It's like confidence as well. For some reason, I don't know why, but artists in general like to just bash on people who use reference material. I don't know why. It's so weird. Like,
use that real life reference, baby. That's the only way it's gonna look real.
It's so weird. I think it's because maybe people are too afraid that someone will trace their work or heavily use reference to where it's not original. I don't know why. It's so weird. Like, it goes back to that.
Use it from life.
Yeah.
Like, if you want a certain lighting, a jug of milk or a candle,
yeah, it's so weird. I mean, it goes back to the example I mentioned earlier about the whole character design I did. Another thing is, like, you can use references done by other artists to inspire you, but use it in a way to where, as I was talking about earlier, freaking studying it. Don't use it as a reference necessarily. You could, if it's a pose that everyone else has done, like the stereotypical pose of the superhero on their knee with their fist in the ground, which is, by the way, is really bad for your knees. That pose is not good at all. A physical gripe there. Never mind whatever character it is. But see what I mean there? It's like everyone does that pose. Like what you mentioned earlier, make it. You haven't done it yet. But really it's like you can use the pose, but don't reference whatever that character is. And see how the artist and see how the artist really emphasized the character's proportions, manners, posture, and seeing how well they did it. And as I mentioned earlier, like seeing where they may have messed up. Then look at real world examples and like life studies. Sometimes it's hard to find a actual pose you want. How to easily
do it yourself.
How to easily do that is do it yourself.
Like,
pose.
Do it. Just do it. Get that lighting right.
Don't get butt naked though. That's weird. That's weird. Don't do that. Unless it's for something totally different, you could do that, but whatever. I'm not one to judge. But
that's not our job.
Yeah, that's not our job. That's your parents' job. Okay. But
somebody else's job.
But shoot, you can even ask your friend. Sure, it might be weird. It's like, hey, buddy, I need you to pose in a very weird way. Why? It's hard drawing. Why?
I need you to stick your leg up over your head and your leg right arm.
I need you to sit on the couch, spread your legs open, and say I'm French. No, okay.
Whoa.
Paint me like one of your French ladies. It's actually one of my biggest jokes. I always make fun of that stuff. That maybe may say something of me as a person of not being confident in that kind of regard, but whatever. I don't care. But no, it's like with those examples of using reference material from everything. Like, you want to learn how to draw clothing? Well, guess what? You have clothing all over your room. Look at how the material looks for each piece. Look how it folds, how shadows and light reflect upon it, really. You want to draw a lizard. I mean, you can look up photos of lizards. It's easy, but Now, one of the best things you can ever do is if you have a local zoo, I recommend going to that zoo. You got so much freaking reference material there. Besides animals, there's people.
Exactly.
You get so much reference material going to like a zoo or an aquarium or any gathering place really, and just seeing how many different variants of stuff you can see and how they interact and how they move. And if you want to draw people,
100%.
and if you want to get better at drawing people, just go to your local gathering place like a game shop or a bookstore or like a 4th of July. Especially, well, although
July only happens once a year.
Or job. But like going to those places and stuff, or shoot, even just walking around or on your local commute, you see so many different people, and that can really help you expand on how to draw different people. Like one of the things I suffer with is drawing people. Like I've gotten better, I'm good at it, but oh god, I suck. Except for males, but that's because I use male anatomy for all my monsters, so that explains something. But yeah, it really just helps you understand and how to draw stuff better. Because when you go outside, you literally see like 10 different people, and each of them have something different.
Exactly. How some people's noses fit on their face, eyes apart together, different ears, how they connect to the jaw. Yeah, it's amazing. Get out there and go look at strangers. Well, not right now, not during the crisis.
Yeah, no, you'll get.
This is all done.
You'll get the COVIDs.
People stock.
As Game Grumps once said, the Backstreet Boys are back. Those guys are great. I love those guys. They're funny. Self-insert insert for Game Grumps, by the way. You want to listen to some funny gaming stuff? Just listen to those guys. They're great. Aaron and Dan are the funniest freaking dudes I've ever like heard. I've seen like I can't remember, but I've definitely seen like Dan and Aaron at some point. I think it was when Dan was doing his tour in Seattle. It was at a con or something. But yeah, no. Anyway, but yeah, no. It's seriously, it's like yeah, there's just a lot of stuff you can do with art and understanding how things work.
Do some exploring. Draw something you haven't drawn before. And hey, if you hate drawing something, that is the best thing to draw. If you hate drawing hands, draw the fuck out of hands. Like, don't stop drawing hands.
Yeah,
just keep drawing them.
It really expands on the things you can do. And also, by doing a lot of different things of drawing, like drawing so many different things, it really shows what you don't like. Like, maybe you finally figure out, maybe I don't like drawing people. Maybe I want to draw monsters. Or maybe you're like, I hate drawing fluffy things. Like, it shows, it makes you easier. Because that way you're not appeasing to a giant audience. You do what you like to do, and going back to that whole inserting yourself into your works thing, too.
Exactly, it all ties together.
If you like something, someone else will like that. Like, hands down, somebody else will like that thing you're doing. Don't always try to appeal to the masses, because sometimes not everyone likes to see that sort of thing. Or maybe people just don't care. But the people who do and want to see that thing you're working on or making, they'll let you know.
Yeah, you can't please everybody, that is...
Nope. We are human beings. We are human beings. We have so many different things we like. And with that being said, is there anything you want to add for the end of this podcast, or maybe do some self-inserts or advertisements for your own work?
Okay, make sure you check out this pretty cool dude. Check him out. You can check me out if you guess. There might be a link in the description. I don't know yet.
Yes, there will be links in the description to Fox's little art page here. There will be links to my stuff too. I mean, that's a given, but really this is this part of the podcast is to see if Fox has anything she wants to share or advertise. So that way you guys can check out this person's work, because they're phenomenal.
You're too sweet. Well, nothing really, thanks. Podcast.
Yeah, no problem.
Everybody out there that's watching, I don't know you guys, but I love you guys watching stuff. Great.
Yeah,
I guess that's it.
I appreciate the people's listenings and support. Like, I always sure it might be weird to say you love somebody, but there's a difference between the two. If you say love in general, that means you appreciate the people's support and love and stuff. But yeah, I thank you for joining me for the podcast today, Fox. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for adding a very valuable input.
Oh, I hope some are okay.
You know, people are gonna take this to heart, and they're gonna be I'm hoping people will feel better about themselves after this podcast.
I hope so. Hey, just love yourself, everybody. Okay? I know it's hard sometimes.
As RuPaul once said, how can you love anyone else without loving yourself?
Right.
Or something like that.
Take it easy.
It's close. Alright, well, that's the end. Thanks for joining me, Fox. You have a great day. And listeners, you too have a great day and take care. See you next time, folks. Goodbye.